In this video, we're going to add a unit test to our recast.yaml file to test the first event selection stage that we just added to our steps.yaml file. So I'll go into our GitLab project and open up the recast.yaml file. And again, we're starting with this hello world skeleton that we downloaded initially. So I'll start by updating the name. So we can call it maybe HDBS 2021 999 and update the author and the description. Okay, the workflow does not need to be updated. It's still pointing to the correct file. And then to add a unit test, we'll go over to the recast docs in this defining steps section and go down to testing and adding tests. So this is the format for what a test should look like in the recast.yaml file. So you have the name of the test, the particular step in the steps.yaml file that it's testing, and then the parameters that need to get fed in to fully supply the input and output for that, that step. So I'll just copy this format. And yeah, we can actually keep the name the same, but the parameters are going to need to change. So let's see, I'll just open up the steps.yaml file so we can remind ourselves of what we have. So we have an input parameter signal file and an output parameter output file that's going to need to get fed into the next step of the workflow. So we'll set up the fields for that. Okay, so the signal file is going to need to get read in from EOS using XRDCP. And the format that we use for that is to, first of all, specify that it's coming from EOS user. And then add the full path to the file that we have stored in the central recast project area. So if I go over to the dedicated directory that got created in the central recast project area on LX Plus, I'll do a PWD so you can see where we are. So we're here in the central recast project area, and this is the dedicated directory that got created for our analysis. So I'll copy that into our input file path. And then, oh, one more thing to copy. Great. So if we do an ls in our recast inputs directory, we see that there's a background.root, a data.root, and a signal.root. So the background.root and data.root actually don't need to get read in at this stage because they already have the skimming cuts pre-applied. So they only need to get read in the final statistical analysis step. But what we do need to read in is the signal.root file, which doesn't have any pre-selection cuts applied. So that's the file that we're reading in here. And then our output file is going to have to get written to temporary storage. So it's going to go into this workdir for the particular step. And we'll call it signal skimmed.root. And that should be everything that we need. So I'll save that. Actually, just copy the name so that I have it ready to go. And if we go back over to the recast docs, we've already done our setting up of the authentication, so we don't need to repeat that if we're in the same session that we were in when we originally did this authentication. But just remember, if you do start a new tab or reset your environment variables, you will have to redo this setup. So, okay, we can run our test using this recast tests command. And we'll just replace the name of our workflow with, I lost it. Right, HDBS 2021-999. And see what happens. Okay, so it looks like the test succeeded. Now we can take a look at the file or the directory that got produced for the test. So that's always going to be named recast-test- a bunch of numbers and letters. So go into that. And we see that the signal skim.root file got created and output into this workdir, so that's good. And then we can also take a look at this underscore pactivity directory, and you'll see that there's a few different log files. So there's the pactivity sysbackend .pull.log. So let's take a look at that. So that's showing the output or the log output of pulling the Docker image from the GitLab registry. And it looks like that was successful. And we can also look at the step.log, and that's showing a full specification for what needs to be done in the step. And then lastly, we can look at the run.log. And this is usually the most helpful log file, unless there were issues that happened earlier on. But this is showing the output of the bash commands that get executed in the step. So it's showing that the KInit was successful, and we were able to source the release setup script without any issues. We were able to download the file from EOS using xrootd. And then this is the output of the event selection code, which shows that everything seemed to run okay, and 27 events passed our selection out of 100. So this is all looking good, and you can add additional tests if you would like for other steps of the workflow.